Thank you for having me here today. The topic of my presentation is facial engineering and how to use minimally invasive facial contouring methods for better facial aesthetics. Certain financial disclosures need to be made. I've been a faculty at Allergan and MERS for a long period of time, and some of these instruments and consumables will be spoken about in this presentation. We all know that the OG curve is a sign of youth, and we understand this as an S-shaped curve which is seen, especially when looking at the side profile of a beautiful young lady. We also understand that if we were to simply explain what facial aging is, it's the process of Mother Gravity being ever so kind and pulling our facial tissues downwards and medially continually. So essentially, what happens is as the facial tissues tend to sag, the lower face tends to become wider while the upper face tends to lose volume. Now, obviously, in every ethnicity ages differently, and it's important to understand how the Asian Indian face ages. It blows my mind to sort of realize that we did not have a paper which came out of India talking about how Indian faces age. Obviously, we age very differently as an ethnicity from Caucasians or Oriental populations, and this was published, and this is something which has been used ever since. Now, if we look at this particular paper and we look at some of these serial photographs, we sort of get an understanding of how people in India or the Asian Indian population starts to age. Look at all these photographs and start it allow it to sink in to sort of explain to you what exactly is happening to the face as we grow older. So as we go from the 20s to the 30s to the 40s and later, look at how the cervicomental angle becomes much more obscure. Look at how the definition between the lower face and the neck becomes worse. And look at how men age as well as we go onwards in age. Essentially, what we realized from the study was that because of the melanin content in the face, the upper third of the face ages relatively well, with the mid face and the lower face being the real problem areas with an early onset of neck sagging and jowling. Obviously, contours are important in every ethnicity. However, in Indians, because of the widening of the lower face as all of us age, facial contouring or facial engineering becomes even more important. Now, the modalities that we use typically are fillers, threads, Botox, Ulthera, Deoxycolic Acid, and surgeries, and we'll speak about each one of them. Now, let's talk about fillers. So if you see a heavy face like this, essentially, if you describe it in terms of morphology, you have a valley, which is the nasolabial fold, but you also have an overhanging mountain on top of it. Unless you can get the mountain is because there are tissues which are coming downwards. And unless you can get this mountain to move upwards, even if you fill the valley, the results will be suboptimal. So what we do is use a high G prime filler, in this case, Juvederm Voluma, for the facial contouring or the facial engineering. This is used at the lateral pyramids of the face, the objective being to raise the mountain upwards, and then use a low G prime filler in order to sort of coat the lower part of the face or the laugh lines in order to make the laugh lines look better. And that's the result immediately post the procedure. Threads become important as well. And thread lifting is the art of putting in certain barbed wires below the skin, which can reposition and pull the skin up. Now, if you look at a patient like this, this is an outpatient procedure, and you can see the patient is very comfortable under topical anesthesia. The threads are then trimmed next to the skin. In heavy faces like this, the threads do a good job of raising the mountain, and then the low G prime fillers can be used to coat the valleys. And this patient has also undergone carbon dioxide laser resurfacing. Similar in this patient as well, how the threads have lifted the face and contoured the face and changed the dynamics of the face, which was more squarish, to make it a more pleasant oval looking face. Botulinum toxin for the masseters is very important. And using Botox for masseter hypertrophy, you can actually give long-lasting results, as was demonstrated in a 4-year follow-up study which we conducted. In fact, when you look at the way the squarish jawline changes, it's almost magical how the shape of the face can be engineered using botulinum toxin. Look at how the face of the patient has changed. She almost looks like she's lost 10 pounds. But the fact of the matter is it's only Botox which has been used for the masseter hypertrophy. Similar patients also using fillers in this case to lengthen the chin. and using fillers to lengthen the chin and Botox to reduce the width of the face as well. So this study actually went ahead and showed that these results last long term, even more than 4 years. Deoxycholic acid is used very regularly, and when you use deoxycholic acid, you can reduce the submental fat significantly. And this paper was published by us in JDD, in the Journal of Drugs in Dermatology, which showed the use of deoxycholic acid and how it can be used to restructure and engineer the face. These are some of our patients with the same. Ulthera is used very regularly as well, and this high-intensity focused ultrasound treatment, we can go ahead and utilize it in order to make the face look much more structured, get raised, and raise the fat pads, and therefore contour the face. And those are some of our results from Ulthera. This was also published in a paper which we've just documented. We can also perform surgery. The mid-face lift is a great way of passing sutures through the submental fat and actually taking the sutures up and tying it to the deep temporal fascia, which in turn raises the entire face and makes the face look much better. And when you actually go ahead and see it, you can see how the pull is transmitted to this muscle and how the entire fat pad is raised post tying of these sutures. Nasolabial folds can also be removed, or you can remove the fat from the neck area, from the jowl, using facial liposuction. And this can then be restructured, or the fat can be repositioned in the face, in the upper part of the face where it came from, changing the entire structure of the face surgically. You can use a combination of these procedures to make changes, as you can see in this remarkable lady, a 48-year-old, whose face and structure of the face has completely changed. Look at the transformation that can be caused by facial engineering, and look at the big difference that this entire process can cause. And these are some of the papers which have come out of the aesthetic clinics over the last couple of years, giving us the privilege of furthering science. We also love to train people. And if you would like to learn some of these techniques, welcome. And it'll be a pleasure to teach you some of these techniques as well. And this is a book which we recommend that every doctor should read in order to feel proud of our profession. And these are some heartfelt stories by the best doctors across the globe, which I had the pleasure of leading the anthology. Thank you so much for your kind attention and a patient hearing. And once again, thanks for having us here.